So nearby Brad, which of the 4 spin-offs of The Walking Dead are you most looking forward to?
I've seen one episode of Dead City.
Wait, that's the thing?
Dead City's Negan and Maggie.
Is he still going?
What, Negan, yeah.
How did they let that guy live? Doesn't he, like, become a hero in later seasons?
Yeah, they gave him a redemption arc, so he's now a good guy.
I'm so glad I stopped watching this fucking show. So folks at home, I'm just going to pull back the curtain a little bit here and talk about like the writing process for Fiend, because the script this video is based on, I wrote it in 2016. So 7 years ago, before Fiend even existed, when Fiend was just a website. I want everyone to keep that in mind when I read the intro, because even though I wrote it 7 years ago, I think it still holds up. So, like the shambolic rotting corpses featured in the show, The Walking Dead will never fucking die. 7 years ago I wrote that.
So poignant.
So poignant. It's almost like I'm good at my job. Which is weird to think that the show very nearly was killed in the crib by AMC when they decided to give half the show's budget to Mad Men, forcing them to set the entirety of the second season in the same room of a farmhouse.
Don't get close to them. They're not going to be around forever.
And I'm going to guess, Brad, like myself, you are a fan of The Walking Dead. By which I mean, you like the first season, and we're like, oh my god, this right here is some fucking television.
Yeah. This is to make up for the ending of Lost.
That's one. This is some television. Like, you know, fuck lot, this is television. And then you got to the second season, you're like, oh okay.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, but the thing is, Karl, are you familiar with the sunk cost fallacy?
I am, yes.
I've seen all 11 seasons.
During the pandemic, tried, because I thought, well, what better time to try and, like, you know, catch up with The Walking Dead? Because when I found out there's 10 seasons, and I think I gave up at the point where Rick just started hitting people with his car. I don't know why. There was just a bit where, like, Rick just hits a guy with his car, and I was like, why am I watching this?
There's so many bits in The Walking Dead, like so many seasons, where someone tells me something happened and I'm like, oh yeah.
I just don't
like the Terminus arc.
I just stopped caring, because like every season is okay, let's find a new place to hold up and ruin it for everyone else who lives there. Because Rick's group is like full of monsters, and that's one of the things I love. The concept I've talked about in the past is the idea of binge watching TV shows that were never meant to be binge watched. And this is true of almost all television shot before like 2016, 2018, when streaming became ubiquitous. And The Walking Dead suffers from this so much because Rick's group is full of fucking monsters. The longer it goes on, the funnier it is that Rick tries to portray himself as the good guy. Like when they go to Negan's camp. And obviously Negan's a bad guy. He kills people with a baseball bat. And I remember like, okay, yeah, so Negan is awful. He's very charismatic. Jeffrey Dean Morgan knocks it out of the park. Pun intended. But don't forget, like, the introduction to Negan's group is like Rick's group breaking in and stabbing them all in their sleep.
Well, the reason why Negan gets them all in a group and gets rid of one is because they killed his men.
Yeah, but I love as well, because that's framed as like, oh, Negan's so evil. Look at him not giving anyone a chance. It's like, I'd like to just like smash cut to Rick's group stabbing people in their sleep with screwdrivers. His group, they're all serial killers. Like, that's the thing. If you filmed The Walking Dead from any other group's perspective and Rick's group rolled into town, you fucking run. Like, he's probably killed more people than anyone else on the show.
I mean, just through the sake of actually having lived longer than most of the people on the show. But...
yeah, like I said, when he got to the point where he's just hitting people with his car, and I'm like, why am I even watching this anymore?
Just the full Walter White.
Yeah, but before it gets to, like, you know, it became, ironically, I know, a shambolic walking corpse, like, The Walking Dead was really promising, but I think, like everyone else who's a fan of the show, like season 2 is a notable, just like downturn in quality.
There's like 2 or 3 good moments. There's like the bit with Dale, and then there's the bit with the barn, and then I guess the end.
And there's also as well just Shane being like the most pragmatic motherfucker in the universe. Like, I am so mad that Shane died, because he deserves to live more than anyone else on that show, because he's the most pragmatic one. Of just like when he shaves his head and all that, the Shane tech, let's go. And then he dies.
It's hard to get aerodynamic to run away from the zombies better.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, just because he's the most pragmatic one, he's like, okay, like this is like the literal, like, you know, end of the world. Fuck everyone but me.
I'm sorry.
He's just Shay no numero uno, let's fucking go. And while there are admittedly some pretty decent moments in season 2, it has some criticisms that are fairly universal. One of the key ones being that 90% of the season takes place in the same room of the same immaculate farmhouse. Because when I think zombie holocaust, do you forget how clean that farmhouse is in season 2? Look at that!
This place is beautiful.
Been in my family 160 years.
I can't believe how serene it is, how untouched.
And you just forget how much of a radical departure it was from just the tone established by that first season. And that could work, just the juxtaposition of them, scrambling on the streets and, living out of their cars on the highway for a couple of episodes, just smash cut to them on, a clean farm. That could make for, some interesting dynamics. The problem is that there's no real dynamics on the show because there's no zombies.
Yeah, so I was under the impression the reason why the season took place in a farm is because it was based on a graphic novel series, and presumably there was a season on a farm.
They go to a farm for a little bit, yeah.
But so why was it so dull? Why was there nothing there?
And that's because, Brad, even though The Walking Dead was one of the most successful seasons of television ever up to that point, the people making it, AMC, decided that they needed to cut the budget.
Why?
Because they wanted to give all the money to another show they were producing called Mad Men. And admittedly, Mad Men is a great show, and it probably does cost a lot to make. Even though Mad Men is just guys in boardrooms and suits talking, it's a period show. So there's a lot of money for CGI. And you might be thinking, folks, wait, there's CGI in Mad Men? Yeah, there's a lot of it. And the reason you don't notice it is because the industry term for it is hidden CGI. It's as you said, set extensions. For example, if they're sat in an office and there's a window, someone's going to have to CGI the background to a cityscape, because obviously you can't just film in a big office in a city somewhere.
The most ridiculous example I've seen is Ugly Betty. Some of this extensions on that, they're on a green screen studio to just put them on a street. And it's I assume that's not fake. The stuff I've seen of her walking around on a full green screen studio.
Yeah.
It feels like it'll be more effort to do that than it would be.
That's the thing. It can be cheaper. It can be more expensive, depending on how skilled the people are behind the scenes and just how much people making the show give a shit. And with Mad Men, it's a very expensive show to produce. So what AMC did is they saw this smash hit, breakout success in Walking Dead season 1 and people, just absolutely chomping at the bit for more, and thought, well, let's slash the budget for season 2 and give more money to Mad Men, which is in its 3rd or 4th season.
But executives and people, they care about money. So why would it make sense for them to slash the budget of a successful show to go with another show that I'm assuming wasn't proven at the time?
Well, no, Mad Men was still ongoing. It was still doing really well.
Okay, so Mad Men was a few seasons in.
It just needed more money for that, as well, because it's a more established show. The actors commanded higher salaries, so they needed money for that. There's a lot of hidden CGI as mentioned, and they thought, well, we can cut a lot of corners on The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is ostensibly a show set in the real world. Mad Men is, but I said it's a period piece, so if you want to, for example, film a shot out on the street, there's so many things you have to do or take into consideration. You can't, say, for example, have a car from 2015 drive past. You can't have advertisements in the background that are not period accurate. There's a lot of cost there for ostensibly quite simple shots. Whereas in The Walking Dead, because it's ostensibly set in our world, in our time, just a time where zombies are taking over everything, you can kind of cut corners there. If you film on a farm in the Walking Dead universe, you don't have to do anything to make it like a farm from the 1950s. It's a farm.
So is it just the location, or do they cut the costs in other places as well?
Well, when they were going through the budget, they noticed that one of the biggest costs on the set of The Walking Dead was for extras.
You mean zombies?
Yes. And they said, well, why don't we don't need zombies, right? How many do you really need?
It's not The Walking Dead!
Also keep in mind that the reason people were hooked on the show is that first episode having so many zombies. Those are the images that sold the show, the concept of the show. That's the reason people were tuning in each week, to see more zombie action. But AMC, in their infinite wisdom, is well, you don't need zombies, right? And the show's called The Walking Dead. It's but you don't need zombies, do you? It's well, we kind of do. It's okay, so how many zombies though? It's well, we'd like a few. It's how many is a few? And there are a bunch of just hair-pullingly frustrating stories from behind-the-scenes production of season 2 from the people making it about the things that AMC suggested to improve the show and cut costs.
Oh God, it's always the case. There's always a studio that don't get it.
It's always executive meddling. So would you like to hazard a guess, Brad, at how they advise the studio to cut costs on zombies?
Reuse the same ones?
Well, no, because then you still got to pay a makeup artist to make them look like a zombie, Brad. And you remember, it costs money, mate.
Please tell me they didn't use cardboard cutouts.
No, because then you got to pay someone to make those cardboard
It's just more
cutouts.
zombies, isn't it?
Well, no, because they need zombies, but how do you get some zombies for no money?
I don't know. Did they get the main cast to dress up as zombies in scenes they weren't in? Like,
Nope, you're not going to get it because it's so stupid. They told the director, why don't you, rather than showing the zombies, just suggest that they're there by having characters say there are zombies about. Also, rather than paying extras to dress like zombies and showing them, why don't we just get people off camera to moan like zombies and say, there are zombies outside?
no, that's. You can't have a zombie show where people just point at the zombies. Then you get into B-movie levels of film.
Yeah, so AMC genuinely advised the people making The Walking Dead, like, well, we need some budget for some zombies. It's like, why don't you just have people off camera, like, moaning like a zombie? It's like, because then the actors can't act against that.
Oh no, Karl, there's a zombie approaching you right now.
Well, that's what they told them to. Keep in mind as well, The Walking Dead won awards for the quality of its zombie makeup. We've done a video on how good the zombie makeup is in that show. And the people with all the money are like, well, have you tried just not putting zombies in? Let's think, just one.
It's a show about zombies!
See, now you know why there's a plot point in season 2 of there being exactly one zombie in a well. Because that's all they could afford. They could afford one zombie. And it's stuck in a well for 90% of the season.
Looks like we got us a swimmer.
There's more, isn't there?
Of course there's more, because it wouldn't be a fact theme video without a twist. So, AMC slashed the budget in half and told the director, make do. But it gets just a little bit better, because the show was really popular and AMC wanted the show to be a success and they wanted more of The Walking Dead. They just didn't want to pay for it. So in addition to slashing the budget in half, they told them to make twice as many episodes.
That's like a quarter of the budget, because you got to spread that half out.
So effectively they slashed the budget in half twice, and that's why, again, if you wonder why are so many of the episodes just in that fucking farmhouse with nothing going on, and that's because they were told, okay, we need like twice as many episodes of the first season, you've got half as much money, also you have to adapt this arc from the comic and nothing else. You know, and now imagine if there was half as many episodes with, you know, effectively twice the budget, they could probably done a lot more with that season.
Yeah.
Like, they've had more zombies. Like, you know, it would have been a lot more truncated. There'd been a lot less fluff, a lot less filler.
Yeah, one thing I really hate in television shows is when you can tell they're really trying to pad out a specific arc. And just some episodes, you're like, I could delete half of them, it wouldn't make any sense. It would still make sense.
But we're not done yet, because there's one more thing that the studio did to save some money, and that is firing the person on set who was paid the most. And do you want to guess who that was?
Was it Shane?
Nope. I'll give you a clue, it wasn't one of the actors.
Oh god, it's not the writer, is it?
It wasn't the writers, no. It was the director. You might be thinking, why was the director paid the most? Well, the director was Frank Darabont. And that's a name you might recognise, because he's one of the best fucking directors/screenwriters in all of Hollywood. He wrote The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh!
Yes. And they fired him a few days after he went to Comic-Con and, like, you know, promoted the show. So he went to Comic-Con, promoted the show, gave it his stamp of approval, and they fired him because he cost too much. And you're about to mention something that I'm going to mention, aren't you, Brad? Because what happens in season 3?
They go to a prison.
They do.
That was exactly what I was going to mention.
Yeah. So they fired the guy who directed The Shawshank Redemption before The Walking Dead went to a prison. The most famous, successful prison movie ever fucking made, and they had that guy on contract, and they fired him because he was complaining that they slashed his budget in half and told him to double the amount of episodes, and didn't give him the budget for zombies in a zombie TV show.
How did this show make it past season 2?
Exactly, and that's why it's
completely new to it.
And that's why it's so funny. And what makes it even better? Even better. This isn't the only time that AMC did this. Because AMC also slashed the budget of Breaking Bad again to give the money to Mad Men.
What do they do to Breaking Bad?
They told Vince Gilligan, we're only going to give you the budget for 6 episodes for this season, because we want to give the money to Mad Men. And Sony heard about this and decided to just fund production instead. And that's why, like, like Breaking Bad just jumped distributors between seasons, because like AMC's like, well, we only want to pay for like 6 episodes of Breaking Bad. We want more Mad Men.
Who the fuck is in charge of AMC?
You know what? Someone who apparently loves Mad Men.
It's not that they're a bad executive, it's that they just love Mad Men.
And the best thing about Mad Men is it's about just ad executives who are just like high on their own supply, who think they're God's gift because, oh, we wear fancy suits and make all the decisions. It's actually the terrible people who no one likes.
Advertising is based on one thing: happiness. And you know what happiness is? Happiness is the smell of a new car.
So folks at home, if you ever feel like you've made a bad decision, at least you weren't the executive at AMC wanting to put less zombies in The Walking Dead and make less episodes of Breaking Bad.
Fucking hell.
And they probably still have a job and get paid way more than any of us do. That's one of the things I love about making Fact Fiend videos, because each individual thing we talked about there could be a fact for another channel, or it could be like one of those shitty TikToks that just rip us off anyway and just say, like, quick facts you don't know about so-and-so. But I wrote that into one cohesive video, and just each step of the way it gets progressively worse. I prefer that. Because like, this is from when I used to just write articles and we didn't make videos. I just wrote these for the fun of it, and I always loved writing articles and scripts. Now, where there's always just a twist, and it always just gets a little bit worse. I love when we record these and I say, but Brad, it gets a little bit worse. Because you think, oh man, they slashed the budget in half. How could it possibly get worse? Well, then they told them to make twice as many episodes. Well, how could it get worse? They told them to put less zombies in. Well, how can it possibly get worse? Then they fired the director. Well, how can it possibly be worse? Well, the director had just been to Comic-Con and promoted The Walking Dead. And, like, he felt really, like, blindsided by it. Well, how can it possibly get worse? The next season was going to be set in a prison and that guy directed Shawshank Redemption. Well, how can it possibly get worse? They also did it with Breaking Bad.
God.
It's great. I love it. Just taking some zombies out of Walking Dead.
That's the part that gets me.
Yeah, that's the thing. They could have like slashed the budget. Like, the thing is, well, they've got an inbuilt way to save money in The Walking Dead. Just kill off your main characters.
Yeah.
You could. There's a really. Do you know that bit in like Richie Rich?
This is going somewhere.
Well, Richie Rich, the film, like there's a bit in it where like young Richie Rich takes over his dad's company, and the executives are like, okay, so we need to fire some employees. And Richie Rich is like, well, we're not going to do that because my dad always said that, a worker who's securing their job is a happy worker, and we want happy workers. And the executive's like, well, we need to trim the fat somehow. And Richie Rich goes, well, if we need to trim the fat, let's start right here, and gives his entire board of executives a pay cut.
If we need to cut the fat, I say we start right here.
And it's just like that. It's just like that, isn't it? Of like, okay, we need to save money somehow. Fire the extras you're paying like up $200-300 a day to dress up in zombie makeup. It's like, well, how about we just have one of those zombies pay $200-300 a day? Just kill one of the people you're paying like $80,000 a week.
Eventually, The Walking Dead fell into the same trap of Game of Thrones, where there were just these characters who should have been on the line all the time, and you just knew they wouldn't kill them off because they were too popular.
They're too popular, yeah.
It's like, I think one of the shows I know that's done that the best is Attack on Titan. Because there is never a point in Attack on Titan when you think anyone is safe.
Mm-hmm. Which has just finished now, so I'm excited that it finally ended.
Have you seen the finale yet?
I've not, but I'll never forget when Lucas, we were meant to be recording something. He says, can we make it a bit quick? Because the final episode of Attack on Titan has just dropped, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because they advertised it as the final season. So even his girlfriend sat down and watched it, and it said, part 2 coming soon. And then a year later, he did the same thing and fell for it again. And then just this week, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to watch the finale of Attack on Titan." Do you mean? Are you sure it's the finale?
Yeah. So I think they just dropped season 4, chapter 3, part 2.
I respect it.
It's something like that, but yeah.
Oh, but that's the thing. They had an inbuilt excuse for saving money at any time during the entirety of The Walking Dead up until like season 6 and 7, where actors got popular enough where they could start negotiating like season-long contracts.
Yeah.
Do you know what my favourite bit is? This happens all the time. And I think my favourite one is a show that I used to love when I was a little kid, because I used to watch reruns of it, Airwolf. Did you remember watching Airwolf?
Airwolf?
It was a show about like a helicopter. It was like in the vein of Knight Rider, where it's like, okay, people trying to rip off Knight Rider, let's just make a show where they have this vehicle that's like, the star of the show. And Airwolf was about a helicopter.
Yeah.
And the show was about like, oh, we've got an emergency, send the helicopter out. Like, to think Knight Rider of like every episode is there's an emergency that just so happens to require the services of a helicopter, and the helicopter had lots of gadgets.
Yeah.
I think in like the 4th or 5th season, the helicopter blows up. And then the next season, they made an Airwolf season, but they didn't have the budget for a helicopter. So they made an Airwolf season without Airwolf. And then they somehow got like 8 episodes out of that concept.
Are they trying to rebuild the helicopter? Like, what's the plot?
No, just the helicopter got blown up in the previous season. I think it got blown up in the first episode, sorry.
It wasn't alive, was it?
No, it's just a helicopter.
Okay.
But I think in the...
It's not like Knight Rider where the...
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the first episode of like the reboot of something like that, the helicopter explodes and then they don't have it for the rest of the show. So they made it. So the title of the show is Airwolf and there's no helicopter.
Ground wolf.
Thing is though, I would have loved it if they've got a wolf attached to a fucking like drone. Like, give me a crime show where it's just a wolf attached to a drone.
Oh, that's game over, man. If you're out somewhere, a wolf on a drone comes at you.
It'd be great. Just throw it at people. Just throw fucking werewolves. It's a thing we've talked about many times in the past. We'll no doubt talk about more in the future of just executives who don't know what the fuck they're talking about being able to sit in on creative decisions. Like these executives who are fundamentally allergic to anything fun and creative sitting in on creative decisions. It sucks.
Well, the video game industry is probably the worst example.
Oh, yeah.
The number of times like franchises or things have been... Overwatch 2 is a fantastic example of just ruining a game that had so much potential because people wanted to rake as much money out of it as possible.
I think there's a very telling story told by, I think, the lady who wrote the Uncharted games, I think.
Yeah.
She was the lead.
I think she's the same one who wrote Legacy of Kain as well.
She's one of those people who's been in the industry for years, and you look at her IMDb page, and it's like, oh, this person knows what the fuck they're talking about. They were going to be writing a Star Wars game, and they had all the pictures, they had like, you know, the story and the basic concept outlined, and they went in for a meeting with EA. And they gave the pitch, and they told them the pitch, and the executives at EA were very excited because it says Star Wars on it. And then, according to this lady, just the executive went, okay, so FIFA, we've got Ultimate Team. That makes us $1 billion a year. What's your version of that? And the lady went, well, it's a story-based game. People will buy the game, they'll play the game, they'll enjoy the game, and then they'll go play another game. And the executive's like, but Ultimate Team makes us $1 billion. Can you do something like that with this? It's like, no, it's a single-player experience. Like, it's a crafted experience for the player. And like, okay, but Ultimate Team. And then just the deal fell through because they couldn't think of a way to monetize it. I just love that. I'm just like, and you can see it, can't you, in your head?
Yeah, I can picture the meeting.
But Ultimate Team, like FIFA, you know, makes us $1 billion a year. Make FIFA. That's things like make FIFA.
If she was like less of a, like, wasn't standing by her guns in that meeting, we could have had a game where you're opening packets and getting like shiny General Grievous.
It's more, she just got fired. If you don't want us to sell out, follow us on Patreon.